Sports are ingrained in youth culture in the US. Almost every American kid plays some sport at least one time in their childhood. I hope to inspire more of that to happen in China. I played basketball over the summers in China. I was the only girl on the team. I met a friend in a math class that I was taking during the day. So I was like, hey, you should come to this basketball program that I do at night. She said, okay, whatever. So she came, and all of a sudden I wasn't the only girl anymore. And so we had 2 girls. And then every week we'd bring another person from the class, until our math class was all playing basketball and my friends from China were all playing basketball. I just want to give more kids the opportunity to try sports because I think that sport culture still has room to grow, and so I hope to be a part of that growth. I knew that the Olympics were going to be in China, and I think that this actually offered a really good opportunity because a lot of people were going to watch the Olympics who perhaps hadn't heard of the sport before, look at their TVs and say, hey, we're the same age and she's out there doing that, I can too. Standing on the podium, it's very symbolic, but to me, I think my most emotional moments happen behind the scenes because that's really where the work happens. After my half-pipe run, I got a 93.5 or 93, and so I'm just crying on this sled on the way up, and there's a guy driving the sled, so I'm like shaking behind him. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm great, I'm more than okay. This is the moment I've dreamed of. Didn't make any adjustments, and I've made my routine and the way that I ski and the way that I prepare and the way that I train have remained the same because I don't think that should be limited to what country I'm skiing for. It really just is unique to me. I think because the sport is international and my whole message is that I want to make sports international. When you have an opportunity to try something, always take it because the worst that can happen is you don't like it. Even if that means if you're the only girl in something that you're afraid to do and overcoming speaking up at a board meeting or speaking up in class or sitting next to someone who you normally don't sit next to at lunch. Just kind of encouraging people through my participation in an extreme sport and my participation in extreme sport in China, competing in China.
What if I told you that there are traders, American traders, that are actually going to compete for China in the Olympics? And you'll find out why this makes no sense in a second. But first, we gotta talk about the most famous case, and that's Eileen Gu. Eileen Gu has been in the headlines because her dad is American, but her mom is a Chinese immigrant. So she's an American citizen who grew up in the US and has decided to ski for China, of all countries, in the Olympics. Whatever, right? It's her choice. Well, the thing is, she's actually being used for huge amounts of Chinese propaganda. The American girl who turned Chinese out of love for her mother country. China used Eileen to show all of the citizens of China that America is in decline, and even Americans who have Chinese ancestry would rather represent the beautiful homeland than the failed state of the USA. China is so advanced and so developed that Americans are fleeing to give their talents for the glory of the motherland. And the deals come into Bank of China, China Mobile, Mengniu. Millions of RMB pour in just for switching sides. And it's a great marketing decision too. Being a top skier in the US is fantastic, but it'll get you nowhere near the level of fame as some other sports. And I hope you are reaching out and calling and emailing NBC, Coca-Cola, General Electric, because these companies, these corporations are mute right now when it comes to the questions as to why they decided to support one of the most evil regimes in the entire world and to give a stage to a purely evil and disgusting government. It's up to you to call and waste their time, because they're going to have to explain to you why they made that choice. And that message will eventually get back to them. do your part. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Both Winston and I working our asses off.
I think that sport culture still has room to grow, and so I hope to be a part of that growth. I knew that the Olympics were going to be in China, and I think that this actually offered a really good opportunity because a lot of people were going to watch the Olympics who perhaps hadn't heard of the sport before, look at their TVs and say, hey, we're the same age and she's out there doing that, I can too.